my God. That's all I can handle of that. We're trying to dance on camera, and it's so bad. It's just so awful. Definitely go and check this out on YouTube if you just the first 20 seconds is fine. Welcome into another episode of That Betting Podcast with Predictology. My name is Kris, the MLS Guard Guy. I am joined by the guru of all things Predictology, the man, the myth, the legend. His name is John. How are you today, John?
Fantastic, and even better after such a wonderful intro from you, Kris.
I tried. The intros are getting better every week.
They are indeed. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to our special show next week when we're both in London.
Yeah, so we are heading to London for the Sober meetup. We're both going to be in the city together on Thursday, so we will be sort of kind of, in the same room. I don't know if we decided if we're going to be in the same room or not for the podcast, but we'll be in the same city at least, which is fun for not being halfway around the world. But anyway, we are going to jump straight on into the show for this week. Now, before we get started, I mean, you've had a fun fact like every week. Have you got another one this week?
I do indeed. Are you ready for it?
Oh, boy. I don't know if I'm ready for it. All right, here we go.
Kris, if your passion is for goals, which is the most entertaining team to watch in MLS right now?
The top scoring team in the league?
The team whose matches have the most goals in.
Ooh, for the whole season.
Season to date.
I think San Jose.
Wow, you've got one right.
Hey, there we go. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, so San Jose are averaging, their games are averaging 3.67 goals per game. 77 goals so far in the season. So if you want to watch goals, go watch San Jose. And do you happen to know who's second?
Second? Oh, no. I'm going to stop at one. I'm going to take my money and just leave it on the table here at one. I have no idea who's the second.
It's your very own DC United, but 3.45 goals per game. Slightly influenced by that 7-0 defeat.
Have we also the 5-3 in Orlando that we
that as well? Yes. So
I was going to say, have we even scored any of those goals, or just been all against us? I don't even know.
I think the majority is against.
That's okay. We'll live with it. So that was a nice fun fact. Get the ego boosted a little bit here. So we'll go into top bets here and get a little more of an ego boost, because I know I called at least one thing right that the show has been trying to call for weeks here. So I'll let you take it away there for top bets.
Yeah, I might just have to hand the mantle over to you this week, because you went 3 for 3. We both landed our best bet. That's my third in a row, with LA winning away to SKC. You also had Seattle, who I was very anti, and they did battle to a victory. And you also caught the unicorn, the Toronto clean sheet, whereas my value bet in Atlanta went down pretty early.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. And I was texting you, okay, Toronto's up 4 goals. Let's just set up shop and get this clean sheet, boys. Like, we got to get this. And Believe it or not, they tried to give it away to Charlotte, but I think one hit the post maybe, and Charlotte was a little threatening in the second half, but they didn't come through. And then the other one, you were texting me the entire time about Seattle and how Seattle was garbage in the first 4 minutes after they conceded. And I said, hold on, it's a long game. And sure enough, back they came. By the way, did you see the red card in that game? That was the stupidest red card I think I've ever seen.
Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
If you haven't seen this or you don't know what we're talking about, go look up Kellen Rowe's red card from the Colorado game. He actually got a red card for tossing the ball over the ad boards. When there was no Colorado guy anywhere near, no one trying to take the throw in, he just kind of flipped it over the inboards and was given a second yellow and sent off like halfway through the game too. It was absolutely
no, it was like 2 or 3 minutes after half time. It was so early into the second half. And when you say toss, that even overemphasizes it. It was more sort of a half slip, half spin the ball a few yards away. It's just
Right.
Absolutely needless red card, completely appalling refereeing.
Even the Colorado players weren't trying to get a red card. Like, they didn't think they had any argument to try to get a red card.
Nobody apart from the referee saw that as a red card.
Yeah,
but I will say, though, just to give my ego a little bit of an uplift, is I've picked my best bets have actually landed 4 out of the last 5 of the 4 of the 5 episodes that we've done so far, and my fave value bet has also landed 2 out of the 3. So I am ahead in total profit and loss at about 3, nearly 4 units for me, whereas you're still half a point down. So even with those results last weekend, you got a bit of work to do this week, Kris.
Hey, don't call it a comeback. We're on the comeback trail. That's all I need to know. And I have 0 idea where I'm going for these bets today, so we'll probably be going right back down. But hey, every once in a while, a blind score will find a nut. So definitely interested in that one. So let's go ahead and get into some game previews here. We've got 5 games that we're obviously going to highlight like we did last week. The one show note that we'll do before we actually get started here, next week from London, obviously, is the start of the Premier League season. And so we will be essentially splitting the podcast in half. We'll do half of the Premier League, half of the MLS. So we'll spend basically half the time on MLS. We'll only have a couple featured games, and we'll breeze through the rest. And then we'll also be talking Premier League as well next week. So if you are interested in Premier League, make sure that you are tuned in for that one.
And just on that, I think it's probably worth highlighting that we did pretty well going through the card last weekend as well. Some of the standouts were NYC to win second half at 1.7 and to win to nil at 2.45. I also highlighted that the Columbus match would likely finish draw on draw. It was 0-0, so that was a big win at 4.8. We had several other winners, and actually overall, just using a 1-point staking, we made 5.5 units across the whole program, which I think is pretty good when you consider we're trying to find an angle in every game. So let's see if we can do the same this week.
You really can't beat that at all. And I don't know. I think there's going to be a little chaos this week, so we'll maybe get into that as we go. But I think last week was very, as expected, kind of very chill, no real big surprises. I could see a few more little surprises nipping us this week. So we'll get into our first featured game this week. We have Nashi's team, and the co-hosts on our other podcast, Nashi Chicago, will welcome Atlanta. Chicago's been on a bit of a hot streak. Atlanta has been mightily struggling, especially away from home. Chicago Fire 1.99 to get the home win. 3.43 for Atlanta as the road underdog. Now, you had some notes on this game, John, so I'll let you go ahead and start things off.
Yeah, I've been really pleased to see the Chicago form over the last few games, considering I think in episode 1 or episode 2, our data did highlight that we could expect to see an uplift in Chicago, and that has been seen in the last few games. You know, they've won 3 in the last, one of the 3 of the last 3, only conceded 1 in those games. They're actually, and this is a stat that really surprised me, they are joint second in the table season to date for the number of clean sheets with 9. Only New York City have got more, which I was quite surprised at that with the Chicago point of view.
They had a bunch of them in the beginning of the season as well.
Yeah. They perform stronger at home too. 43% less goals conceded over the season at home compared to away. So, you know, this is a strong Chicago side in hot form coming into this. Atlanta, 1 win away all season. They've got 5 defeats and 2 draws in the last 7 away, and they've conceded at least 2 goals at each of those games. Interestingly, from a head-to-head perspective, there's been no draws in the last 5 fixtures. And actually, it's a game that's gone to the home side in each of those most recent games. What were your thoughts on this one, Kris?
It's actually the home team record is even stronger than you let on. 9 of the 10 all-time meetings between these two teams have been won by the home team. So the Chicago Fire are a little bit of an interesting case here, and one that I don't know if I'm quite sold on as yet, just because they've kind of run into some, I'll say, friendly fixtures. And not that Atlanta at home is not a friendly fixture, so they could certainly go on and win this game as well. And I think I probably would pick them to go on and win this game. But you kind of caught Seattle at a good time. You caught Vancouver at a great time as they rotated everybody in the toughest place to play in North America, BC Place. And then before that, they caught Seattle at a great time. They caught Toronto right before Insigne came. lost to Columbus, lost to San Jose before that. So it's 3 good wins in a row. It gives the Fire some hope. And obviously Shaqiri wasn't present early in the month, so he's a big difference maker in this team. Whenever he's in this team, they've got a chance. But I still don't know if I'm sold on Chicago long term. So after this Atlanta game, they go to Charlotte, one of the best home teams in the league. They go to Philadelphia, probably one of the best teams in the league, period. And then they play NYC and Montreal both at home. And then they go to New England. So August is really, really tough for this team. And then even after August, it gets a little easier, but it doesn't get a whole lot easier. So I think this is an absolute must-have 3 points for the Chicago Fire. They have got to beat Atlanta in this game. A draw is just not enough for them. But yeah, I mean, you would hope the signs would point to Chicago being able to pull this out and to kind of control this game and really get full value from this game. But again, I said before, I'm sensing some chaos in the league this week, and this is a game where I could see chaos. I mean, Atlanta is not hot at all by any stretch of the imagination, but those front guys, if they're ever on fire, if let's say Joseph Martinez gets to start in this game, I don't want to pick against them, No,
I'm inclined to agree with you, Kris. I think Atlanta, despite their horrendous form and particularly away, they're a dangerous side. They haven't shown it in a long time, but they are still remain a very dangerous team. I think the fact they didn't score last week, it's not very often, even with that array record, they go 2 games without scoring. So I've actually marked this down as the safer play being both teams to score at around 1.7, but I actually quite like the look of this match finishing in a score draw, which you can get at 4.6 currently, which I think is where the value for me would be in this game. And on the topic of Martin,
that would be devastating for Chicago if they draw this game.
Yeah. How far away from the starting lineup do you think Martinez is? I mean, obviously benched him for 3, is it now, or 4 games since he's?
I think it's 4. It's tough to say, because they're. I mean, this is crunch time. Like, if they can't get them, and from Atlanta's perspective, they're 4 points from the playoff line right now, and the playoff line is just Cincinnati. The 2 teams ahead of Cincinnati are even 2 points above them. So if Cincinnati gets a win this weekend into Inter Miami, that playoff line could get really far away. There's only, 13 games left for Atlanta. That's going to be tough to come back from, it'll be a 6-point deficit with 12 games to go if they lose this game. It's going to be tough. So I think you're kind of in crunch time. The coach has got to be on the hot seat at this point, right? Like, he came in mid-season last season and was kind of okay, but this is not a team that's, if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to fire him, I'm sure. So I think you got to just fire all your shots here, empty your clip and go for it. You can't bench a guy at this point that could potentially help you. And obviously Joseph Martinez can help you, especially an angry Joseph Martinez.
Completely. It's gone longer than I thought. I expected him back last week, and I'd be extremely surprised if he's not back this week, because that would just be literally shooting yourself in the foot. Right. And this, you say this is a crunch game for Atlanta and Chicago, but I think this is going to apply to many of the teams that we're going to look at today, because after this weekend, we're literally into the final third of the season. So this is where things start to get real fast. Just quickly, did you have any views on what's been confirmed in the last week about Darren Eales heading to Newcastle in the Premier League? I forget, it's the CEO, I think it is, or something along those lines.
Yeah. He's going to run the team. A fantastic hire, in my opinion, from Newcastle. He's a world-class guy. I think, obviously, Atlanta United has exceeded all expectations from where they started a couple of years ago. And to now they're upset at, they're 4 points back of the playoff line and the sky is falling in Atlanta. That's the expectations that they have. So, business-wise, Atlanta has dominated. Selling tickets-wise, I think they led the league in attendance for every year that they've been in the league. So, I think it's a fantastic hire. Newcastle really knocked it out of the park there. I'm excited to see what he can do with all that money and all that opportunity. I love to see what Newcastle is building here.
And do you think that has any impact on the Martinez situation? I know Martinez didn't name Eels, but he pretty much blasted everybody. But certainly someone who's sort of the face and the head of the front office. And I think his departure within weeks. Maybe it's not linked. I don't know, but.
No, a move like this, you're planning for at least a couple of months. So I don't think this was a reaction to Joseph Martinez. I think the biggest impact on Darren Heels leaving is now the coach will feel a lot more on the hot seat because the guy that hired him is gone. And obviously the expectations are high in Atlanta. So I think, if anything, this lights more of a fire under Pineda's butt and maybe gets Martinez back in the lineup quicker. I don't know.
But maybe
that's the only road.
The counteract to that is maybe it makes his position safe for at least until the end of the season, where they might have made a change now. Because if you got an outgoing CEO, there's no word on the new coming, that sort of thing that might happen at the end of the season. But I don't know.
I don't know if that helps him though. Like if he's because if they don't make the playoffs, he's not coaching next year. Like does an extra 6 games really help you that much? You know.
No, dead man walking, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll be a lame duck here pretty quick if they don't start to turn things around. So that's a fascinating game, though. 2 teams that are really, really interesting. And 2 teams, oddly enough, that have the exact same goal differential this year. So 2 teams that are played similarly. Chicago just has 2 more points and just happens to have won the last 3 as opposed to Atlanta is kind of in a downturn. But these 2 teams have been kind of even throughout the year. So very interesting game here.
Where do you sit on this? And I'm going to split my bet across both teams to score and then combine that with the draw at 4.6. Do you have an angle for this one?
I don't feel good about this, but I probably would take 199 on Chicago to win, even money at home. They are hotter. You know, could Atlanta turn up? They absolutely could, but at a coin flip price, I think I'm okay with that because I think the Fire probably win this game, but I definitely don't feel good about it.
Yeah, understood. All right, which game's next?
So next, let's take Montreal against New York City FC. Now, NYC traveling to Montreal in this game. Obviously, Starman Tati Castellanos is gone. We talked about Ronnie Dyla leaving about a month ago. And now Tati has departed as well. This will be their first game without him. Do they replace him with a DP signing? Will be very interesting to see. But for now, they are probably going to roll with Hebert up top. Montreal at home, 2.45, just kind of sneaking under the radar again. New York City actually are the underdogs just slightly, 2.61. I know you have some thoughts about this game as well, so I'll let you run with this one.
Yeah, I think obviously the big story is Castellanos has gone on a season-long loan to Girona. I mean, he was linked with many sides over the summer. I actually read quite an interesting article, I think it was on The Athletic, in that the reason he hasn't gone on a permanent transfer is that no one came close to matching the price that New York were looking for, which I thought was a relatively modest 15 million when you consider Pepe went for a similar amount and hasn't played for Freiburg. Is it Freiburg? I forget who
Augsburg.
Daryl Dike went to West Brom in the Championship at 9 million or something like that. And this is you're talking about, and you're talking about someone who's been the best forward in the league for the last 18 months. And so not getting bids anywhere close to that price. And it seems to be that young American players at the MLS are attracting a lot of attention in Europe, but not so much at this stage the younger South American contingent. And sort of what that's based on, I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on at Girona. And I actually think he's going to surprise a few people and do relatively well there, considering it's probably in for a long season as a club. But back to New York, they've definitely steadied the ship after a few interesting matches following Ronnie's departure. They've kept 3 clean sheets in a row. I think they were 2-0, 2-0, and 1-0. They're 3 games that they've won. They've won 4th v Montreal. I think the only question mark against NYC, which is a little bit surprising, is their away record is mid-table at best. They're 11th in terms of best performances away from home, which is a little bit surprising for a side of their caliber and where they sit in the table. Montreal are actually only 3 sides not to have drawn a game this season at home, which is an interesting one. The other 2 we'll come on to later. This game is where originally when I started my analysis, we were having question marks around NYC. You know, who's going to replace Castellanos? You may have some views on that in a moment. Montreal have been very free scoring and free conceding. They're certainly a dangerous team to play. But I actually think the market may have overreacted a little to Castellanos leaving, and NYC are moving into that tempting price category for me. Best price I've seen is around 270 to 2.7, which I think is huge, but most are around 2.5, 2.6. You could even get NYC as a draw no bet at around 1.95 to even money, which again, I think is very attractive. Or you could even, if you want to take a long shot in this game, winning to nil New York is 5.25, which looks very big as well, considering the strength of their defense. So I might be leaning towards NYC on this, and that's not where I expected to when I started my initial analysis. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that's honestly, I think you're spot on with the analysis here. Like, they're going to replace Tati Castellanos probably with Hebert to start, and Hebert was a pretty good forward before Tati came in and kind of broke into the team. And this team is way better than the team that Hebert was playing on before. I mean, even when Hebert comes in spot duty, sub duty, he still looks pretty decent. He had a long-term injury, I think, in 2020 or 2019, and that's what gave Tati the spot. But yeah, I mean, this is not just a Tati Castellanos and that's it on New York City FC. They're a deep team with a lot of good options.
100%. Yep.
Tallis Magno has shined this year, so I think New York are still a far better team than Montreal talent-wise. And the only thing that gives me some pauses in this game is in Montreal. But that being said, Montreal has also had some kind of questionable results at home. They lost 2-1 to Kansas City. They lost 1-0 to Austin in a game that Austin had a red card. They lost 2-1 to Real Salt Lake, who we've said is a great home team, but they don't really do too well on the road. So Montreal can kind of lay an egg at times. They've also, Montreal are also a team that can kind of hang with the big boys, so to speak. They beat Red Bulls. They drew with Philadelphia. So it's a tough one to call. It's tough because you never know which Montreal is going to show up. That being said, like, goal differential 20 for New York City, 0 for Montreal, despite the fact that they're 6 points apart in standings. I think New York probably edges this game. I don't really feel confident in this one either, though. Yeah.
For me, the value is clearly in New York. I would be loading up on New York on those 3 different markets that I mentioned. I think as a purely value play, quality versus quality, New York are ahead, and those prices are overreacting to Castellanos leaving, considering the quality that they have in the team and that can come in replacement of Castellanos. So if you find those prices, that's where it's still available ahead of the match. That's where I'd be going.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. And even when Montreal does win, they're not exactly blowing teams away. I think they have 8 or 9 goals I saw, or 8 or 9 games I saw where they had 1 goal wins. So, and not typically against good teams either. They just beat DC 2-1, albeit on the road. It was not a good DC team, and they should have easily won by more than that. So this is a team that just kind of grinding out results in Montreal. This is a big boy game, though, so we'll see where they are, and if they're really going to challenge in the playoffs. This is a game that they need to kind of show up and play pretty well in. But I to be honest with you, I don't have a great read on that game, so I'm going to stay away from it probably in my betting.
That's fair.
Let's move on to possibly the game of the year, and I don't know why we didn't start with this game, but. This is an absolute heavyweight matchup that's going to take place in Los Angeles Friday night. LAFC, the league's hottest team, the team that is top of the Supporters' Shield standings by quite a bit. They're 3 points clear of Philadelphia versus the CONCACAF champions, Seattle, who are currently in 9th place, but come in on a little bit of a downturn in form. Obviously did get the win 2-1 in Colorado last weekend. Kellen Rowe will be suspended for this game. Raul Ruiz Diaz is a question mark for this game. So Seattle's got some injury issues, whereas LAFC is deep as anything at all the positions. So they have absolutely no issues with their roster. Is this one where you just kind of take the home team and ride with it? LAFC is a pretty heavy favorite, 1.54 Or do you think there's some value on the Seattle Sounders at 5.45 going on the road?
Yeah, look, I think this is definitely not a game that you just go for the home favorite in this, because the layers of this game run much deeper than that. I know I've been pretty hard on Seattle in the last few weeks, which I think is wholly justified. I'm just trying to find the notes that I shared with you for your other podcast, but they did come out and get the win last week, and I actually did watch the game. I thought Seattle were, after falling behind early, were very good in the first half, and I think what I was more impressed with is they dug deep after that crazy red card that we mentioned earlier. They still had like 40-odd minutes to play the game. They did what they need to do. They took the game, they got the goal through a penalty, and they held on for it. So they're not a terrible team, and I never said they were. They were a good team playing terribly, is where I sat on this. It's very, very, very hard to go against LAFC. For me, they are the best team in the division by a good margin at the moment. They won the second half yet again last week. They now won 10 second half games and drawn 2. They've scored 2 goals at least in 8 of their last 9 home games. But, Seattle's this is the type of game where a team of Seattle's experience should be able to will have no problem with raising themselves for this. They've been under in the last 6 away games for Seattle. They've had under 2.5 goals in each of those games. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting match, and could go either way. What are your thoughts?
This is a game that you are going to want to watch. If you're a neutral, if you're betting on it, doesn't matter. You're going to want to watch this game because this is just going to be as good a show as the MLS can put on, with all the star power in this game and all the tactics and 2 great coaches. And this is just going to be a heavyweight fight. This is going to be a war. There's going to be punches and counter punches. I think you said it best, right? This game could kind of go either way, and LAFC is a massive favorite, which makes me lean towards Seattle. I do think LAFC is the better team, which may shock you to hear me say that. But I do think LAFC is the better team, at least at this point, and especially if there's no Raul Ruiz. That being said, Seattle at its core is set up to be a counterattack team. They're set up to defend first with Stephen Fry in that massive back line. They're set up to defend and then break on the counter with all that speed up top. Jordan Morris, Christian Roldan, Rui Diaz, they're all quick, they're all fast. Nico Ladera picking passes all over the park. Typically it would be João Paulo, but now it's Albert Rusnak picking passes from the back to spring those guys. This is kind of what they do. They're absolutely deadly if you try to get into a track meet with them. And here's why that matters for this game. LAFC are such a good second half team. They are unbelievably good in the second half, but they're not great in the first half. They've only been winning 4 games at halftime this year, and I can't see them nabbing an early goal and then forcing Seattle to come to them. In my view, the other way around is more likely. Seattle's going to nab the early goal, and LAFC will have to come to Seattle. All the pressure will be on LAFC to prove that they're legit, prove that they're going to get the full 3 points at home. I think everything just kind of plays into Seattle's hands. And I said there could be some chaos this week. And this is definitely a game where I think there could be some chaos, because Seattle is the type of team, if they nab an early goal and you start pressing at them and trying to force mistakes, they're probably going to pick you apart and get maybe 2 up. So yeah, I do think it'll be a more cagey type of match. I don't think LAFC will just full press if they go down a goal. But the second half should be very interesting, because I do expect Seattle to have a lead, and we know how good LAFC is in the second half. Typically, they just blow teams away with their depth, but Seattle isn't really a team you're going to blow away with your depth. So it's going to be a fascinating tactical battle, I think.
I think you've made a good read of the game there. I can see Seattle getting a goal, and even with a team of LA's quality, you don't want to be chasing a goal against the Seattle side. And I just think coming into this, Seattle are actually pretty big price. I think they were over 5s when I looked at it.
Yeah.
The way I'd be playing this, and I think this is where how I set up this game, because it's a game I want to watch as well. I think Seattle draw no bet at 4.4 is excellent value. So let's just say in your scenario, Seattle do get a lead, LA come back, get an equalizer, but not enough to get the win. A draw is very likely, so you've got that coverage there. And I think you're right. I think this will be a cagey affair, and the market's priced expecting goals, but 2.32 for under 2.5 goals. That's a very big price for me. And the beauty of sort of backing a market like that, if it turns into a 4-all thriller, at least you've been entertained while you've lost your bet. So I'd have a little cover on a 2.5 and chance a little bit on Seattle to get the win, but money back if it's a draw.
Yeah, I love that. I love the market is priced for goals. I didn't know that. I don't expect there to be many goals in this game. I would be surprised if either team scored more than 2. I'd be surprised if both teams scored 2. Yeah. So under 2.5, I think has got a pretty decent chance at hitting. And the other thing, like Seattle, even if they don't score on the counterattack, they're still going to pose enough of a threat on the counter to where LAFC can't just send everybody forward.
Exactly.
So even if they don't actually put one in the back of the net, the fact that they could is going to make LAFC not, because they won't be able to put them under pressure for 15 minutes at a time, and that's how you kind of break down a defensive block. I don't think they're going to be able to do that, so it'll be very interesting. Definitely to watch this game.
Yeah, and look, and as amazing as that LAFC second half record is, and it is amazing, it has to come to an end sometime, just like Toronto and a clean sheet.
That's true. We called that one last week, or at least one of us did. One of us said, "Nah, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm done with this." And then I was like, "Yeah, I got it." Okay. So yeah, I think we've summed that game up really, really well. Heavyweight fight, definitely watch. If you're going to go into this market, go for the kind of higher end stuff. Seattle draw no bet at 4.3 is fantastic. So I might make that one of my value plays. We'll have to see. Let's go to the next game here. We've got Orlando coming into DC United. Probably the easiest place to play in the country right now. DC has got a bunch of guys on the incoming transfer list, but I don't think any of them are going to play in this game. Orlando was obliterated at home against DC a couple of weeks ago. They are going to have some serious revenge on their minds. Orlando also just obliterated the New York Red Bulls in the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup to set up a date with the mighty Sacramento of the USL Championship. So shout out to Danny Vitiello, former Pittsburgh Riverhounds goalkeeper, and on keeping the clean sheet and winning the penalty shootout against Sporting Kansas City last night. That being said, they are going to have a tough test in Orlando trying to win that cup. But right now, Orlando is going to be focused on DC and trying to exercise a little bit of demons against a team that they probably should be beating pretty consistently, a team that it seems like they lose to a lot. The odds on this match, 2.25 on DC United, 3.02 on Orlando City. I have plenty of thoughts on how bad DC United is, but I'll let you go first. What do you think about this one? Well,
I mean, congratulations to Sacramento. I think that's an amazing achievement, and good luck in the final. I'm not gonna dwell on DC United too much. All the facts we've repeated for multiple weeks now. Conceded 43 goals in 20 games. Conceded at least 2 goals in the last 6 games. They've won just 1 in those 10 games, which was indeed that Orlando game. But I think I should put some context there that it wasn't an obliteration. It was more they were handed the victory by Pedro Galiz and still nearly gave up the win with Orlando storming back into that game. So Orlando have been, that game aside, I think are one of the sides that we've sort of earmarked that are creeping up the table. They've had pretty steady form. I was really surprised by how much they took apart the Red Bulls in midweek. Maybe you have some thoughts on that. I didn't see the game, just the scoreline. Very easy for me. If Orlando coming here above 2-1 against the worst side in the league seems too big to me. Simple as that.
Seems way too big. And we may not spend too much time on this game because I think we're both going to be in agreement on this one. David Ochoa is coming in. They're getting a DP from Germany. But again, these guys aren't playing this weekend. And Orlando, was they may not have been obliterated. You're right. That's poor wording, but they were embarrassed. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They were absolutely embarrassed in that game. And it was just a weird game because DC got 2-0 up, and then Orlando was like, well, I guess we can't play defense anymore. I guess we're just going to try and score 3 goals in the next 10 minutes for the rest of the game. And I don't know what they were thinking. They don't have fast defenders. They've never played with a really high line, and DC got like 4 chances on the counterattack and put away 3 of them after they went up 2-0. Like, it was just bizarre tactics by Orlando City. They also started in a formation, like giving up the 2 goals initially. They were not in their normal formation. So I don't know. Maybe Correa just didn't respect DC United and just said, well, we can experiment in this game and we'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, that was probably the worst defeat of the year. That being said, Orlando is a pretty good road team. Like they have 3 wins on the road this year, which is not bad. This is a little baffling to me, to be honest with you. 2.25 DC is a favorite, and Orlando City is 3.02. I'd probably be taking Orlando City at the even money mark, much less 3.02. I think there's a really good chance that Orlando wins this game. And I mean, we said it last week in our article. Things may turn around for DC and they may get better, but until then, we're going to fade DC. We're going to fade DC forever. Like, it's just going to be all bets against DC. There may be signs of life at some point, but until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, I think we said the same last week. Until we see anything different, it's going to be an automatic bet against DC in every game until we see something different, basically.
Right. So yeah, I don't think too much time is needed to go over that one. Yeah. Now, this next game I think is maybe the most fascinating game of the entire slate, and possibly the biggest game of the entire slate. With all due respect to LAFC and Seattle. LAFC are making the playoffs whether they win this game, lose this game, or draw this game. Whereas this Miami-Cincinnati game is an absolute dogfight between 2 teams that are desperate to make the playoffs and 2 teams that are sort of kind of not on great form. So it's kind of a losers out type situation here where you definitely do not want to be giving 3 points to one of the teams you're chasing or who is chasing you, whichever the case may be. The odds in this game for Miami against Cincinnati, Miami is the home favorite, 2.05. Cincinnati comes in as the road underdog, 3.31. You have a good read on this game, John, or where are we going here?
I don't know about a good read. This is what I would call the type of game that it really depends which way you cut the orange to which outcome you come to, because you can make a case for pretty much all scenarios in this game. I'll start with Cincinnati. You know, they actually got a point against Nashville, which is better than I thought. So that was fair play to them. Acosta's back this week. Whether he's any ring rusty, I don't know, but that is a positive for them as an overall. However, for a team that was sort of threatening a bit of form about a month ago, they've now had 5 draws and 1 defeat. So they don't lose too many, but they're not winning those games, and that's why you're starting to see them slip a little bit. Now, into Miami, as we said last week, are shocking away from home, and that proved it against New York. They're getting half a point on the road, but at home they're averaging 1.82 points. But their sort of form in the where is it? I've lost it now. But but generally their form's been a bit iffy in the last few games, but their home form is generally strong. They've won 4 of the last 5 against Cincinnati. It's crucial, as you say, it's a crucial game for both teams. Inter Miami score 56% more goals at home, so I think this is even if Cincinnati are dangerous on the attack, but I think this is a game where we can see potentially both sides scoring. Inter Miami haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 games, and over 2.5 goals in 8 of the last 9 home games. So it's not a game where they're much better at home, but they're having to outscore teams rather than dominating and controlling those outcomes. So, yeah, I'm sort of a little bit on the fence with this one, but I'm interested to hear your views, Kris.
So with Inter Miami, it's a question of home form versus overall form, because for the month of July, they've only had 2 home games. One of those, they got down 2-0 against one of the worst road teams in the league, Charlotte. and had to come storming back to win 3-2. The other, they got beat pretty bad, even though it was 2-1 against Philadelphia. Other than that, they have 1 point in the month of July. They have 4 points total from 6 games in the month of July. Now, granted, Dallas, Orlando, New York City, tough games on the road. But this is a team that at the beginning of the season, I don't think we really expected to do very well. Then they had a really good run of form in the middle of the season, and now they've had a kind of a bad run of form. I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt yet. I don't think they're playoff caliber for me. Cincinnati, I do think is playoff caliber. So to get Cincinnati as an underdog, I think is decent. Well, the real market that I'm interested in to know the odds and probably have some value in is both teams to score, because I do think there's going to be goals in this game. Miami's just kept 1 clean sheet, and they've only been shut out once in the last 10 home matches. So 8 of those matches, both teams have scored. And this is also a Cincinnati team that is drawing a lot, as you say, but before their last 8 games, they never drew. They had the previous 30 league games, they had 1 draw. So this is not typically a draw team. They're not a big defense like, it just seems like kind of a weird run of form. So I think there's some value on Cincinnati in this game. And I think there's definitely some value in over whatever goals you want to go for and both teams to score as well.
Interesting. I'm actually going to go against you in this one. I'm going to take a contrarian view of this match. I think everything you've said there is absolutely correct, and the markets would indicate that they agree with you. But I'm actually going to say that this is going to be a both teams to score no game at 2.5, which I think is very big. And I would even chance a little bit on an Inter Miami win to nil at 4.33. So I think I could see this being 1 goal either way, and I would have to give slight edge to Miami on their home form. But I could be 100 miles off with it as well. But I think in terms of just the prices, I think the value is in those markets.
I think you're both teams to score. Yes, I don't think that number is high enough for me to like that. Miami to win to nil is interesting because Drake Callender could just stand on his head at any given time. He's really good, even though they haven't kept a clean sheet in a million years. But Drake Callender is a really good goalkeeper. He just faces an absolute ton of shots. Mm-hmm. So could they keep a clean sheet? Yeah. If they keep a clean sheet, are they going to win? Yeah, they are. But, it has to be a big number. That number does seem fairly high, so I don't think it's horrible value. I just think I do think both teams are going to score in this game. I think it's pretty certain.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that. But if you want to take value on 4.3 is a big number.
Yeah, no, look, and I agree with you that the natural way to sit is both teams to score in this one, and that's why I'm very much taking a contrarian view here, and I'm just of the belief that if either side's going to win it, you have to respect Miami's home form, but it's crucial for both teams, and it can go either way. I wouldn't want to back Miami in the outright markets, and that's why I've had to hunt around a little bit for a bit more value for that, or a bit more run for the money. So yeah, I think it's more than likely going to finish both teams to score, yes, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go against the market.
Interesting. I might look for value in Miami to win and over 2.5 goals. I think there's probably value there. I don't know what that number is, to be honest with you, but I'm sure there's probably some value because I think there's goals in this game. I really do. I think both teams are going to score, and if Miami wins, they're going to have to win by at least 2-1 if both teams score. So, we'll see how that one goes. It's a very interesting and massive game down in Miami. So it'll be interesting to see if the home form holds more for Miami, or if the overall form kind of holds more for Miami.
Yeah. Certainly not a game to go crazy on, but it'd be a great game to watch if you do want a little bit interest. Bet more for sure.
For sure. Any other thoughts with that one before we just kind of quick fire the rest of these games here?
Just quoting the odds for you. So Miami win and over 2.5 is currently priced at 3, which I think is a little low actually.
It's an interesting. I can't see it finishing 2-0. That's the thing. I can't see 2-0. So,
well, let's find out.
Kind of like that. Maybe that'll be my value. All right.
All right.
So we're going to breeze through the rest of these games here. So first of all, Minnesota United at home. They're scorching hot against scorching hot Portland Timbers. 1.78 for Minnesota United, 4.03 for Portland Timbers. What do you like in this?
Yeah, I'm just going to cut to the chase on this one. Minnesota top of the form table, Portland third in the form table. Two teams very much red hot. Quite surprised to see the draw price at 4.0. I would take that one in this one.
Interesting, a draw. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I don't think Reynoso plays in this game, so I'm actually going to slightly lean Portland. Draw no bet as well. I thought I would probably like that. Portland draw no bet. But yeah, if Reynoso doesn't play, that's a big, big, big part of Minnesota United's offense. And Portland is just scorching hot. So even though Minnesota is a tough place to play, I think I like Portland a little more.
Fair shout.
Next one. Charlotte hosts the Columbus Crew. Now, Charlotte come in as a really good home team at 2.38. The Columbus Crew are also scorching hot. They are 2.92 to go into Charlotte and come out with the full 3 points. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, firstly, I'm going to go on record as saying that I think we're going to see a regression in Charlotte's home form over the next month or so. I think I think this is the point in the season where, it's a new side, expansion side. They've done incredibly well, particularly at home. I think we might start to see a bit of tiredness in those legs. I think we'll start to see some sides coming in who may have figured them out a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a slight drop-off in Charlotte's overall performance in the final third of the season, and we'll see a little bit of regression in that home form to something more towards the mean. And that could well start this weekend. I mean, Columbus have been in very good form. They got a solid home draw against New England? No. Who was it last week? Columbus. I've forgotten who it was now.
I don't remember. I don't think
anyway. Columbus are unbeaten in 9. They scored, for a team I think we highlighted about a month ago who were under their expected goals. They've scored 2 in each of the last 3 away games. I can really see a Columbus win here, but I'd probably just play it safe and go Columbus draw no bet at 2.1 when I was checking the odds of it earlier.
Yeah, I do like Columbus to go to Charlotte and at least challenge in this game. I don't know. This may be a draw just because Charlotte is so good at home and they do get so much energy. You can tell on the road they're a lot more disjointed. They don't press nearly as much. They're just a whole different team on the road. So maybe Charlotte can snag a draw out of this game. But interestingly enough, Charlotte hasn't drawn any home games this year.
That's right, yes.
It's tough to pick that, It might be going against the trend. But yeah, I think you're right. Charlotte hasn't really made any signings in this transfer window, which is absolutely shocking considering they basically said we're building half of our team in the first window and half of our team in the second window. This is the second window. They haven't built anything. So I don't know what they're doing in Charlotte. I don't know what they're waiting for. They need reinforcements, and they haven't brought in any. Columbus Crew have. Chucho Hernandez has been fantastic. I love Columbus. I'm on record as saying I love Columbus long-term this season. I think this is going to be at least a very close game, and I can 100% see Columbus edging this one out. So maybe Columbus draw no bet I would take, but that's an interesting one.
Okay.
Next one is one I wrote about, actually, and one that I have a few thoughts on, but they're not really, world-changing thoughts. So we'll go ahead and get into Philadelphia Union against Houston Dynamo. The Union come in at 1.68 at home, 4.89 for the road team, the Houston Dynamo. Do you have any thoughts on this one here, John?
Yeah, Philly are a great team, very solid, don't concede many. Won in Orlando, won the last 4. Houston lost again last week. That's the 13th game this season that they've lost, which is only beaten by Kansas City, and they've lost 4 in the last 5. Really can't see anything beyond a Philadelphia win here, and I'd probably try and extract a little bit more value out of the market and Philly win to nil at 3.25.
I do like that Philly to win to nil better than the Philly normal line here. That the reason being, I think the only way that Philadelphia doesn't win this game is if we see a 0-0 or a 1-1 draw. So I might actually take Philly to win and then a little cover on a correct score of one of those 2 scores or both of those 2 scores if you really want some cover. The Houston Dynamo are garbage on the road. They have been for a long, long time now. Philadelphia Union has only been beaten twice this year. And I know I said there'd be chaos this week, but that would be some serious chaos if the Dynamo went into Philly and picked up 3 points. Philly just continue to do Philly things. I see no reason why they wouldn't at least get a draw in this game. There's just no way that the Dynamo can get a win. And I also can't see many goals in this game. The Union, interestingly enough, my fun stat this week, I guess, the Union have given up 15 goals so far in 22 MLS games, which is tied for the best record in MLS history through 22 games. Only the 2007 Houston Dynamo have given up 15 goals through 22 games. So Andre Blake is a machine at the back. Philadelphia in front of him is a machine. All 4 defenders are great. The midfielders are great. I don't know if I can see the Dynamo scoring in this game. So Philly to win to nil plus a correct score 0-0. I think you're in really good shape.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one, Nashville SC will host the Canadian champions, Vancouver Whitecaps, who will be in the CONCACAF Champions League next season. Congratulations to them on their win over Toronto in the midweek in the Canadian Championship final. Nashville come in at 1.63 as the home team, Vancouver 5.09 as the road team. Where are we going here?
Yeah, it's probably actually, you probably notice it's a very similar selection to the game we've just chosen before. I'm not seeing a lot of, the prices are short on the teams that I'm fancying to win the games this week. So I think Nashville are a side that will probably win this game. So what I'm trying to read them on these games is, if they're to win, it's most likely by keeping a clean sheet and nicking 1 or 2 goals. So Vancouver lost 3-1 to Chicago, as you mentioned earlier. They've only got 1 win in 5, which is actually the same record as Nashville. They've got 1 win in 5, and they haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 games. But I still think Nashville is still a team I like. So I think if Nashville are to win this, they're probably going to win it by keeping a clean sheet. So that's where I'd be putting the value at 0.85 on that.
That's an interesting one. I don't know if I love that one as much as I love the last one. It would probably lean towards Vancouver, except that they just won the Canadian Championship. Vancouver's not a great road team to begin with, and now you've played a midweek game where your opponent hasn't played a midweek game. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I don't know if I'd get too cute on trying to get the 2-0 because Nashville has been not Nashville, let's say. Nashville last year was great defensively. This year, not so much. They've benched Willis at times. I don't.
Oh, he's had a shock.
I don't love the clean sheet bet there. I think I would just. I mean, I do like trying to extract more value, but I don't think there's any more value to extract outside of. I don't really know the correct score, so I'd probably just take Nashville, but I would maybe stay away from this game as well.
Yeah, it's not a strong one for me, but I think Nashville, if either side's going to win it, it's going to be Nashville. I don't like the price on Nashville to win, so I'd rather have a higher price. And if I'm right, it's more likely to be a clean sheet than not, so that's where I'm going with it. But
do you think there's any value on a draw?
I don't know what the price is for the draw.
385.
It's modest. It's not the worst. I just don't love Vancouver away from home, to be honest. Actually, I'm seeing four here on Odds Checker. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty
high number.
large. Yeah.
You're right. I don't love Vancouver away, but I don't know that there's any value in Nashville. And it's like something's got to happen. Like I don't think Vancouver wins this game. I don't think. I mean, a draw is the most likely thing that's going to happen. So maybe that. Yeah. But again, I'd probably just either stay away from this game or just don't get cute and take Nashville at 1.63 and just. Yeah, I don't love value for that, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't be taking the
most likely thing.
Yeah. I could also see a 0-0 in this one as well, and that could also actually service the objectives here of a draw, clean sheet, potentially a 0-0.
I don't know. So. I think there's more goals in this game than at least the Philly game for sure. If I'm betting on a game to have lower goals, I think it's the Union Dynamo as opposed to Nashville and Vancouver. Because Vancouver's got offensive weapons all over the place. They just added Julian Gressel as well.
I definitely like the Union at 3.25 better than the Nashville. So
for sure. New England and Toronto. New England, a team that's been hot. Were they the team that played Columbus last week?
Yes, I think it was.
I didn't even look.
Yeah,
because I think we highlighted how this would be a good measuring stick for both, and both teams I really like. New England's at 1.61 as the home team. Toronto comes in off their absolute thrashing of Charlotte at home, a game that I have said multiple times that we should not get too excited about because Toronto got a little lucky, in my opinion. New England's at 1.61 for this game. Toronto's at 4.77. Any values here?
Well, the decision you've got to make with this game is which of these two statistics do you put more weight on? The fact that New England haven't won in the last 5, or the fact that New England haven't lost at home in the last 7? Now, depending on which one of those you think is more important, is probably will help lead you in the direction of this outcome. But for starters, I wouldn't be betting this game. Toronto got lucky, but they did win 4-0. They've just ended one incredibly long record. They've now got another one in their sights, which is no win in 18 away games. So could they knock over 2 in a week? Maybe. But they have failed to score in 5 of the last 6 away games. But who knows? Maybe they could go there and nick a 1-0. And wow, they've broken the back of 2 of their long standing records. At the price of 5 to win, or 11.5 for Toronto to win to nil, or Toronto draw no bet at 3.9. I would be very, very small stakes, if anything. I quite like potential. Actually, do you know what? I have no idea which way this game's going to go, so I'm not even going to go there.
Toronto to win no bet, maybe, but there's no chance that they keep a clean sheet on the road against Carlos Hill. No chance. I know I called it last week, but not happened 2 weeks in a row. There's just no way. And New England's a team that we've said has had, a tough kind of schedule here. Like, they've been up against some big teams, and you said how they've not won in their last 5 games. That's Columbus away, Philadelphia away, New York City away, Cincinnati at home, and Vancouver away. That's a really tough 5 games. So to come out of that with 3 points, they didn't win any of those games, but they got 3 draws out of those 5 games, is pretty good, I think. I think that's actually an upswing for New England. I think they're the last team to beat Minnesota, too. Since this international break, New England's been white hot. They figured some of their stuff out. Dylan Barrero's been really good. Actually, I don't know if he went off hurt one game, and I don't know if he's back, but that would make a difference.
I admit those fixtures are difficult.
New England's a team that I think is trending up. I don't think they're trending down at all.
I admit those fixtures are difficult, but I don't think you could label a team white hot that hasn't won in 5 games.
Well, that's true. I don't know if they're white hot. I just think they're on the upswing.
Just using your words.
Did I say that? I thought I said Columbus was white hot, not New England.
Maybe I misheard you.
You might be right. You might be right. No, I mean, New England I don't think is white hot. But yeah, Toronto, you never know. See, that's the other thing with this game. Is 4-0 from Toronto the new Toronto? Like, that was Insigne and Bernadeschi's first game. Is that just the new normal now? Is Toronto now one of the best teams in the league? Or was that just, they were playing the worst team in the league and they got 2 deflected goals and just everything went wrong for Charlotte in the first half. And then in the second half, Charlotte was honestly the better team. So I don't know. I don't know which way this goes. I would stay away from this game until we know more about Toronto.
Yeah, I would stay away as well. But you did say this is a weekend for shocks and upsets. So this is one I've labeled as a potential upset. So let's see.
True. Yeah. And hey, I wouldn't put it past you. I mean, Insigne and Bernadeschi can just pull magic out of their hat. So I wouldn't say that's impossible. I would say it's impossible that they went to nil, though, because Carlos Hill is going to pull some magic out of his hat as well.
Well, now you said that twice.
The other thing, Gustavo Bell may not play in this game as well. So there's another point for Toronto, which is interesting.
Well, now you've said it's impossible. I'm going to bet that this weekend. Twice you said it.
That they would have 2 clean sheets in a row after not having a clean sheet for 26 or 27
and win their first away game in 19.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
I
hope that's your value play. I hope that's your value play because I'll make up some ground on you at least.
No, it's definitely not.
Right.
But yeah.
Next one is Sporting Kansas City, who have had a really unfortunate week. Shout out to Danny Vitiello, former Pittsburgh Riverhound, on his absolute domination of Sporting Kansas City. Now the second shout out for Danny Vitiello on this podcast. I will try to shout him out as many times as humanly possible. Sporting Kansas City 2.48 at home against Austin. 2.61. is that, what am I missing here? Like, this is the second worst team in the league against the second or third best team in the league. And somehow the worst team in the league is the favorite?
Yeah. Struggling with this one or two myself. Like, I did expect to be coming on here and be talking a little bit more favorably about Kansas. I quite liked their performance against LA last week. I know they ended up going down 2-0, but certainly in the first half, they played well. They played better, certainly a lot better.
Sure.
I know 2 relatively quick goals put that game to bed, but they look like I was like, they're not playing the second worst team as the second worst team.
They're not DC United.
No,
just say it. Just say it. They're not DC United.
They're not DC United. But then, and admittedly, was it finished 0-0 and go to penalties? Is that right?
Yes.
I just don't know what kind of psychological impact that have. It's not like they got their asses handed to them, but they did go out of the semi-final to a team below the lower league, and it was basically the most important game of their season because everything else is a write-off. So it's very hard to be positive on Kansas at this point. You know, they set a new record last week, as you highlighted. They're losing 4 at home in a row for the first time. And I think there's a real good chance of that being 5 this week. This
is a real tough team that they've got coming in. And this is what I think it was this podcast that we talked about how Austin is getting just flat out disrespected.
Yep.
This is one of those lines where I'm just like, what are you talking about? Austin has 7 away wins this year. 7.
Mm-hmm.
Only the New York Red Bulls have had 7 away wins this year. And in fact, LAFC has 6. They're the only other team with 6.
Yeah.
7 away wins this year. There's 7 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws.
Yeah.
That's absurd. That's absurd road form. And you're going to Kansas City, who's just been absolutely crushed. Morally, they weren't like dominating the game, but morally they've been crushed in the midweek. I don't get it. I don't get this line at all. To be honest with you, I don't get this line at all.
Yeah.
I think Austin is a pretty heavy favorite in this game. So, you're right. Sporting is starting to turn things around. We've said this with DC United. We'll believe it when we see it. We're starting to see the signs from Sporting Kansas City. They've got Eric Tommy in as well, which makes a big difference. They finally have a little bit more talent after losing Polito and Gadi Kinda without any matches being played for those 2 guys for the entire season. That being said, as much as I think Sporting can turn it around and can get some results at some point this year, this is a really good Austin team. It's like, let's just stop disrespecting them. Let's start collecting our money for other people disrespecting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's impossible to predict the unpredictable, but if you're basing it on form, morale, strength of team, odds, it all points to Austin. Now, Austin, I think, have either the second or third best second half record behind LA. So that's where I think that the real value going into this game is. I mean, they're a great price on the win market, no doubt about it, considering all the facts we just mentioned. But I actually like Austin to win the second half at 3.25 because I do think Seattle are going to, just for their own pride, come out and try and be tight and try and do something in this game. Their professional pride will mean they have to come out and do something this weekend. But Austin have often fallen behind in games and then come back to win or draw in this. So I like the look of Austin. Maybe it won't be as easy as go their way immediately, but I do see them getting a winning, certainly very good chance of a win. But I like Austin to win the second half at 3.25. I think that's a massive price.
And the other thing to note with that, too, Sporting played 120 minutes in the midweek.
Mm-hmm.
Austin didn't play in the midweek. So if you're talking about a team that might just run out of gas in the second half, it's Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah.
Because that was a war that they were in with Sacramento. It was physical. It was tough. Both teams were counterattacking. It wasn't like Sporting had Sacramento under pressure the entire time, just lobbing shots, and it was easy. This was back and forth. It was 2 evenly matched teams. And, and it was a lot of running. There were 3 or 4 cramps on the night that I saw for Sporting Kansas City as well. So if they're going to run out of gas, it'll be in the second half. Austin
Yeah.
could potentially take advantage of that as well.
So I think we're both aligned. Austin should absolutely win this, and if you want a chance at a slightly better price, think about Austin in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one, and I think we have one more after this. Dallas is taking on the LA Galaxy. Both of these teams kind of in a little bit of a rut, but LA broke out a little bit, beat Atlanta last week. Dallas beat Real Salt Lake.
In Salt Lake.
So interesting
to mention.
In Salt Lake, too. That's a good point. In Salt Lake. So two very good results for teams that needed good results, and now two teams that are definitely chasing the playoffs. A massive game for both of these two teams as well. It's in Dallas. Dallas is 2.15 at home. LA Galaxy 3.14 on the road. Where do we think this game goes?
Yeah, well, I think Dallas's result is more impressive from a form perspective than Galaxy's, for all the reasons we mentioned around Atlanta. I'm still pretty low on Galaxy at the moment. I think they're a poor side that beat an even poorer side. Dallas to go to Salt Lake and win requires a good performance. Dallas have also won the last 5 at home against Galaxy. And Galaxy is still on a run of 5 defeats in 7, even with that win last weekend. So for me, to say it's a Dallas win. But if you want to play safe, both teams to score at 1.7 looks a reasonable shout. And just one last final statistic I'll throw into this. If you want a bit of coverage back in the draw in the second half, is the Galaxy have drawn 67% of their second halves, and Dallas have drawn 45% of their second halves, which gives us a 56% average. But you can get the price on the second half draw at 2.65, which I think offers a bit of value as well.
That's an interesting note. Not one that I had really thought of. Yeah, I think you're spot on here. The thing that concerns me is Dallas is a young team that we've said is inconsistent. This is definitely a spot where they could lay an egg, and 2.15 is kind of a low number for me to like Dallas. We like them as underdogs, I think, but we don't love them as favorites, and here they're a favorite. The plus for the Galaxy in that game was, yes, they've been garbage and they beat a bad team, but they kept a clean sheet, which is really important for them. They're what has made them tick all year long has been defense. At the beginning of the year, when they were keeping a lot of clean sheets, they looked unbeatable. And then in the middle of the year, they started letting in some goals and started really dropping some form. Can they get back to that defensive mentality and keep some more clean sheets? That's the question. Was that just kind of a one-off against an attack that wasn't clicking, or was that the start of actual progress in LA? I don't know. That's what we're going to find out in this game. I would stay away from this game. I don't think there's any value on any of these lines. I don't even know if there's going to be goals or not, to be honest. I don't have a good read on this game one way or another.
I think there's always chances of goals with Dallas's forward line. I'm still pretty low on Galaxy. I want to see a lot more than just one result to make me think any different. Right. And it's in Texas. Right. And, the heat's there. Dallas have got the record against Galaxy. I can't see beyond Dallas, but like I say, a saver on both teams to score is probably a wise play as well.
Yeah. Last game. So San Jose Earthquakes will be taking on RSL at home. San Jose is a 2.21 favorite in this game, 2.97 on the visitors. Any thoughts or inclinations about this one? I know you mentioned at the top San Jose, but we haven't talked about them a whole lot this year.
Excuse me. You're going to laugh at this one. So I've written down San Jose win at 2.21. For some reason, my file's not saved, so I've got none of the notes to read about why I thought San Jose would win this game.
Just trust us. They're going to do it.
Apart from the fact that San Jose lost the last 2, but I don't know how that helps my assumption either. It's probably more based around the form of RSL. I think it may have been linked to the fact that the away side has won 3 of the last 4 in this, and I think it might be advisable to take the contrarian view on that. RSL, 1 win in 5, they lost the last 3 away, and actually lost half-time and full-time been losing, so they've started games poorly away from home, fallen behind and not come back into those games. Yeah, I mean, it's not a game I have a particular read on, and I just went for the home side, I think.
I don't have a particular read on this at all.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that this is a San Jose game, so there's likely to be goals, as we learned early in the show.
Yeah.
That's my only real read on it. I don't think there's a ton of value either way. I don't love RSL is a road team. I don't love San Jose as a home team. So it kind of cancels itself out there. Salt Lake is also kind of in a bit of a nasty run of form, right? They lost 1-0 at home to Dallas. Did beat Sporting Kansas City before that, but then 2-1 loss to Atlanta, which looks really bad now. We thought Atlanta might be turning things around, but now it's like, well, they actually weren't. That was just a bad loss. 2-2 result at home against Colorado is really bad. 3-2 away to Minnesota. It's not a horrible result, but it is a loss. 0-0 against Columbus before that at home. So this is not a hot team in Salt Lake. I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to go to San Jose. And actually, my big bet long term is that RSL does not make the playoffs in the West, and it is looking more and more likely with each passing week that they just get kind of passed and railroaded by some of these other teams. The Western Conference is LAFC, Austin, Minnesota, then RSL is in fourth, and then Dallas, Nashville, the Galaxy, Portland, and Seattle. And I'm pretty sure that Portland and Seattle are both going to make it. And I mean, who's going to get knocked out of RSL, Dallas, Nashville, and the Galaxy? You know?
Yeah, understood. Yeah, it's not. I think it's not a huge play for us on anything in that game. So, yeah,
no, I don't think so. But maybe if you want real value, if there's some value at San Jose to win and over 2.5 goals, maybe. But I would stay away.
Yeah,
we've talked DC, Orlando City, so that is the last game on the slate for us. We're going to just quickly wrap things up here with Predictology 101, which we're going to talk a little bit about value trading. So
before we get into that, you're not going to
give us some information.
You're not going to escape so quickly, Kris. I need your best bets for the week.
No way. Well, we can do that at the end because that'll give me some time to actually make some bets.
I'll give you some time to think. So we're going to talk about value in terms of betting or trading is a word that's thrown around a lot, and it's an incredibly important thing. But defining value can be very hard, certainly for people newer to the betting and trading, sports betting and trading world. I'm not going to go into that topic in great depth today because, like I say, it is a big topic. But I thought I'd highlight one of the features that we've developed on Predictology to help aspiring football traders, and it's called our value trading cheat sheet. So on the platform, we share something every day called our match shortlist. And this highlights particular games that are profiled particularly well across our database of 400,000 matches that will fit in that suit a particular common trading market, whether that be first half goals, over 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, home winners, away winners, and potential favorites that are exposed and may underperform. Now, what we've added is a downloadable file, and it has the true probabilities based on our database and the results of these shortlists over a long period of time, showing what the actual probabilities of each of those markets and other markets related to them. And it's really easy for those who want to ensure that they're getting value with their trades, because all you need to do is get that sheet, you fire up your bookmaker or betting exchange of choice, input the live odds into the blank columns next to each of the markets, and that will automatically determine whether, based on general probability of the historical performance of these matches, whether a particular market is offering value for the trader. And that gives them a starting point to then look at the market and go, okay, we've got the prices on our side, the probabilities on our side. This is a market I might be willing to trade. So definitely worthwhile checking out.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that you can kind of upload your own and kind of get some more sort of personalized almost advice on what you are looking to do. So really, really interesting stuff there. And we can definitely kind of dive more into that side of things as well in some future episodes, because obviously it is a very, very deep topic with a lot of information.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get our best bets in. I've had some nice time here to rack up some good ones that I think are going to hit. So do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
As you're hot on it, you can start with your
we'll
best
keep the
bet.
hot streak going. Hey,
yeah, let's go
keep
with your
the hot
best
streak
bet.
going. So I'm not going to get cute here. I'm going to take Austin to beat Sporting Kansas City straight up. I did think about Austin's second half, but I think I'm just going to take Austin at 2.61 to just flat out win this game, because I do like that bet in the second half, but I am just going to take some lower value, lower odds, and try and make sure that we get this one over the line, because I do think Austin's being disrespected. So I think I'll take Austin away at Sporting Kansas City just to win.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a very, very fair shout. It's funny, I'm actually got a few choices I'm trying to sort of decide between, and they're not, none of which are particularly low odds, but I'm just going to go with it anyway. So I think my best bet is the one we highlighted a little while ago, being Philadelphia Union to win to nil. I think it's priced at 3.25, which is a fairly big price.
Right.
I just really like that one for this weekend. So I think we'll get some good value out of that.
I 100% agree with that bet, and I think that's great value. Talking about value, I think my value bet is going to be a little shocker here. Seattle to go on the road, draw no bet, but to win that game against LAFC.
I think that's very fair. I think we discussed all the reasons earlier in the show on why that does offer some good value. So I would not dissuade you on that one. My value bet is a little bit lower in the pricing. In fact, all of mine are going to have very similar pricing. I just like the look of the only thing I'm not sure on is whether to go with Orlando draw no bet or Orlando straight win. I think as it's a value bet, I think we'll take the 305 on Orlando to win that one.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one as well. I mean, I think there's good potential for some chaos this week, and we highlighted how bad DC United has been in the past.
Yeah, and if you got
me. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's exactly right. You go.
Okay, cool. Favorite for me. So you have already highlighted my favorite, but it's a slightly different bet for me. Instead of taking, which I think is the better value, in Philadelphia to win to nil, I'm just going to lock in Philadelphia to win, period, at 1.68. It's you can probably get better odds for this, but it being a favorite, I'm really, really confident that this is going to happen. So I'll take the nice lower odds there. To win to nil, you never know. They could always nick a goal. Philly does have one of the best defenses in the league, but every defense is going to give up a goal every now and then. So maybe the Dynamo nick a goal. I'm still confident Philadelphia are going to win the game either way.
Yeah, I can't dissuade you on that because, I've picked it. I was very close to dropping your Austin win in here for myself. But to give the listeners a little bit more options, I'm going to stick with NYC, who I think this is, as we said before, I think it's a tough game. But I think the way the markets have reacted to Castellanos, I think it still puts them at a good attractive price. I was tempted with going with the win at 2.55, but as this is a fave bet, I'm going to take NYC with draw no bet, sort of between 1.9 and even money. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
That's an interesting one. I think I'll be honest. I think that's the one that I'm the least confident in of the six between the three of us, because NYC is in. I mean, obviously Tati's gone. It's. We think that New York City is going to be fine, but we don't really know that they're going to be fine. And Montreal is a team that they can drop an egg and just have bad games randomly and lose games they shouldn't. But they also are fourth in the Eastern Conference. Like, they put up some results that they shouldn't have either. So I don't love picking against Montreal at home, but I do think New York City is the better team, and they are obviously the underdog. So I still think there's value there. There's so many good values this week that
I'm actually
my
finding
least favorite.
Yeah, I think I'm finding the home short odds favorites in the MLS this week. Philadelphia aside, too short, and the NYC could very easily have fallen into the value bet over Orlando, but I slightly prefer Orlando. So getting money back on a draw for NYC, I'm still pretty happy with that at even money. And I think our word of the week is dropping an egg. I think that's about the 12th time you mentioned that. So maybe we should take some odds for next week. How many times you mentioned?
Technically, it should be lay an egg. I think. I don't even think it's dropping an egg is the saying. But yeah, no. I probably have said that way too many times. But yeah, I don't know. I think New York City, if they are going to compete in this game, I feel like they win. So I feel like I would be a little more happy with New York City at 2.61.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which game I would take the draw no bet on of those.
Yeah, it's a I did have originally new NYC just to win. Two books. So I wouldn't dissuade anyone if they decided to just go on an NYC route. But
for sure,
yeah, I'll stick to the DNB to play it safe. But the listeners know the other options if they wish to go that way.
I think they know where we stand on most of these.
Indeed.
So I think that's good. Any other thoughts here before we wrap up the show? Obviously, this is the last time that we will get a chance to talk before we see each other in London.
No, just looking forward to us finally getting together in person and actually having some Premier League football to discuss as well.
Yeah, next week should be an absolute blast between everything going on and talking a little Premier League. And obviously being in London for the start of the season is going to be absolutely insane. So definitely tune into that next week. Make sure that you leave us a review, like the show. Really helps all the algorithms and everything find the show so that new listeners can find us a little bit easier. So we really appreciate your time. Until the next one, have a good rest of your week, guys.
All right, thanks.